Hi, and welcome to another episode of 10xMarketer podcast. I had a fantastic discussion with Josh Silverbeer. He is the head of analytics at the company called From the Future. We are at the intersection of AI and analytics right now. From Microsoft Clarity's co-pilots to automated CRO machines, the tools and technology that we are using is getting sophisticated day by day. In this episode, we discussed few very important topics about how we can stay ahead of curve while we are ensuring that we are using these tools ethically. What are the privacy concerns when it comes to the user? The future of GA4 and Microsoft Clarity. What are the essential skill set for the CRO professionals or marketing agencies? How they have to evolve with the time of AI? What are the important consideration you need to have while using the CRO tools of future? These are some of the things we discussed with Josh, and he brought in some great insights from his past experience. Before we get into the episode and listen to what Josh has to share, can I request you to subscribe to the 10x Marketer podcast on wherever you're listening from, such as Spotify, Apple, or YouTube channel? We are available everywhere, and I'm interviewing some fantastic global marketers in coming future. So make sure you stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Josh Silverbauer. I'm the head of analytics at From the Future, creator, musician, content maker, and more. Nice to meet everybody out there.
Great. So that's a quick intro, and you are so many things at the same time. So it's great to know that. Uh, Somebody who is doing CRO for so long, and there are so many new things happening in the analytics field with the advent of AI, at least. How do you see the future of analytics? How is going to evolve with the advent of AI?
One of the big changes is automation, right? So right now, uh, a lot of companies are building AI into behavior analytics tools and marketing analytics tools, right? And especially with behavior analytics tools, you now have this AI, such as, like an example of this is Copilot in Microsoft Clarity, right? Microsoft Clarity is taking all of the data that's coming onto your website and it is analyzing, it's using AI to kind of aggregate that information and analyze that information. Right now, what that does is, what that AI does is summarize what is happening right on your website, right? That's where the technology is right now. So instead of you having to look at hundreds of different sessions that or different visits that a company is or that businesses are coming onto your website, and instead of you having to analyze all of those recordings, AI is aggregating that information and looking at it and giving you trends. Okay. And that's where it kind of stops today. But in the future, where I see this evolving to is that then can become essentially a CRO machine almost. It can take that information that is being aggregated and being summarized and give you ideas on how to improve your website based off of the friction that it sees, right? And then you, as a user, have the pilot seat on what then can be or should be implemented. And I can definitely see in the future these systems evolving into being completely integrated with your website. We're already seeing it with, how Clarity is becoming a part of Webflow, and it will become a part of Wix, and it will become a part of WordPress, right? And once that happens and you build in some, machine learning technology and some uh, LLM technology into it, you can see how that, if it's built directly into the actual platform, we could definitely see that being able to implement changes directly based off of the, I could totally see these are 10 recommendations. Which ones do you want to test? Right? click of a button. I want to implement 1, 2, and 3. Test those for me, right? And so we're going to be seeing a much deeper integrated ecosystem of how AI can actually make changes on your website based off of the data that it's ingesting faster than you can. And then it also leads to potentially a hyper personalization opportunity as well, right? What is going to be directly the most influential for this one customer based off of what we're seeing this customer do on the website? What messages should that customer receive? And that's what AI will open, because it's impossible for a human to set up all of that logic. But AI can learn much quicker and implement much quicker. And so, that type of testing, that type of hyper personalization is where I see, AI kind of evolving to in the future of CRO and analytics.
Great. So your question is both like answer is both exciting and the scaring at the same time, and
Yeah.
it definitely should be. What I understand so far is the behavior analytics is going to be bigger than what it is right now, and AI will build capabilities to personalize things for the customer. So one of the debate that is going to arise from this is the privacy one, which is already there as a prominent one, and it's going to evolve even further with AI being trespassing in the personal lives of people more than what it is doing right now. How much of this is going to impact the predictive analytics, or do you see Google Analytics being left behind because maybe Clarity is taking things forward while Google with the GA4 implementation is trying to hide more than what they used to show earlier? Uh, where do you see both the tools in comparison of using AI for a web owner?
Yeah. So right now, those two tools are very, very, very different from each other, right? It's a marketing analytics tool and a behavioral analytics tool, and right now, those two things are supplements of each other, right? Unless we're getting into the higher tiers of different analytics tools like Amplitude and Adobe Analytics, right? Most of the kind of more free or more like accessible analytics tools are separate in terms of what you can get out of a behavioral one versus a marketing analytics tool. But as they evolve, Google Analytics 4 had such a kind of hard angry reaction to it when it was released, right? That Microsoft Clarity was allowed to kind of come in and take some of that market share. When people are talking about Microsoft Clarity right now, no one's saying, "Oh, it's going to replace Google Analytics," because it does something very different, right? But if they build in some just easy key features on how to track attribution and how to track campaign analysis and stuff, it couldn't be too difficult for them to take a lot of that market share based off of where Google Analytics is today, right? But you
Bing,
are, well,
Bing
yeah.
already has the search console data, and it's just some analytics feature that is all is needed.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe
and
people,
we're also talking about like Google in the future looking very different because of all potentially a breakup of the monopoly, and we would be the days of Google Analytics being the know all end all is just you know over, right? It's over as it is today. Even with GA4, you're seeing a lot more people explore different options and trying to get data in different ways. And Google Analytics itself is like, we don't even want you to look in Google Analytics, go into BigQuery, right? So it's just, we go from super duper difficult, right? Which Universal Analytics used to be relatively straightforward and easy. And then they really leaned into technical for GA4 versus Clarity, which is somewhat streamlined and easy. You're visualizing the data, you're seeing the data. They're building AI features where you can talk to the data, right? And so this idea of how to get your data in an accessible way, Clarity is doing that better, right? And so there will be definitely some interesting kind of like, I don't know if GA4 is going to get left behind right now, but there's definitely opportunity for other platforms, Clarity and beyond, to take some of that market share because of how disempowered people feel with GA4.
True. And so we can't move ahead before discussing the privacy debate, because that is something which is going to be prominent with all these features coming into play. I don't want to divert from the main topic that we have, but do you quickly want to answer the privacy things, how things are going to evolve from the customers or users' point of view or a visitor's point of view on the website?
Yeah, I mean, so definitely. So privacy is one of the primary reasons why Google Analytics 4, where they kind of got rid of Universal Analytics because of the way that they were processing data, and they were involved in many different lawsuits, and so they rolled out GA4 really quickly to kind of combat all of that all of those issues. And so Google definitely got slapped in the face with a lot of privacy concerns, right? Microsoft Clarity was small, right, for a long time, and it's just growing. And so no one's really looking at them specifically from a privacy perspective. At some point, Microsoft's going to get hit with that as well, right? And so, there's definitely going to be more of conversation around privacy in the future. The problem is that technology evolves quicker than laws, right? And so the things roll out really quickly, and then it takes a few years for that law to catch up and make a difference, right? And roll things back, and it's usually targeted very generally, right? So GDPR, right? That happened, Europe was affected, right? And a lot of companies put into play opt-in cookie banners, right? But then there's all of this, uh, all of these consultants who are like, well, you can bypass this by this X, Y, and Z, right? And there's all these kind of like workarounds, which for better or the worse, they exist, right? And there's always going to be kind of the technology companies thirst for data, right? Because that's where the money is, and versus the privacy of the end user. Now, I think hopefully the world moves towards a privacy centric um, in data, like consensual situation. But I don't think the users will ever be educated fully enough to understand what they're consenting to, right? And
True.
that's also a problem, right? So it's just going to evolve in a really interesting way, and we kind of have to hope that the ethics behind what is being implemented has the best interest in mind for the end user, and it's going to be interesting. And with AI, it becomes more complicated because it's like, who is actually having access to that data, right? If it's just the AI, what does that mean, right? If is that data more private or not more private at that point? If the business doesn't actually have access, but the AI can make decisions based off of that data, right? So it's complicated.
Great. And so the other aspect of the human element, if we talk about the human element in the entire discussion, is the people who are working on both CRO and analytics right now. How do you see their future going to be impacted with a lot of behavior analytics, predictive analytics coming into picture? What skill set both CRO and the analytics guy need to pick up really quickly to stay employable or stay afloat?
Yeah, the I will say that in the future, because from the future, right? I know. No, but in the future, it's definitely going to be how well you can integrate AI into your workflow, right? I think there's going to be a lot less busy tasks, right?
Mhm.
AI will be able to code for you. AI will be able to put a presentation together, right? Your job is going to be essentially running that AI team, right? and how you're utilizing that AI better than the next person, right? How you're putting all of those pieces together. You're essentially a puzzle master at that point, right? And so you're going to have to change your skills from just being able to do this one sector, right? Like you might be a person who has, you know, is really good at data analysis. We can't just do that anymore. You have to be able to direct AI to do that data analysis while you're also directing AI to come up with some ideas, while you're also asking AI to code for this specific purpose, right? So all of these pieces you are now a director of. Similarly to being a director of employees, but now you just have a different type of team, right? But with that said, it gives people, anyone, it levels the playing field in a way, right? Because now your skills, everybody has the same skills, right? In terms of like being able to have access to different types of skills, right? And so you like where people will have the advantage is how they leverage those skills, right? And so that's what will make certain people or teams stand out more than other teams.
True. And so the other aspect, which is even more important for people to understand, is it's not just one skill that can let you survive here, because maybe you are good at CRO and suddenly you see some AI tool giving you better recommendation than what you used to discover. So you have to pick up multiple skills, and you have to be better user of AI, both in terms of coding, in terms of implementing, in terms of integrating, in terms of understanding the insights, and then taking action on that. That is going to be more of a common sensical or a business sensical approach than the technical sensical approach that can really help you survive. I think that's what I see from your answer.
Yeah.
Correct me if there's anything
No. Yeah.
wrong with my analysis.
Right.
Now,
Yep.
the other important aspect, which is even more important for people to understand, is how they are collecting data. So, the standard analytics tool, even Clarity and Google Analytics, they have their own way of collecting the information, and most of us are not even aware of how the cookies really work, how much of it is sampled, how much of it is real data, versus the decision making process that we are so much dependent on AI. Uh, is there a way, like human intervention can really help pick up the anomaly or pick up the errors in the overall analysis? Because when you become so much tool dependent, all the hard work that you used to do in analyzing the logs, analyzing the other things, suddenly it becomes irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
You feel
Yeah.
that it is no more needed, but maybe the entire process, or there is so much sampling done in the back end that you end up doing something which is not required, right?
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
how do you see the data collection process going to evolve with the privacy debate, with the tools taking over everything else?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like AI specifically, like machine learning, is so much about the data that you feed it, right? And um, if the data is trash, like for instance, the way that GA4 works is it's really um, very very based off of like event structured data, right? And so you send in events and you mark certain ones as very important events, key events, right? And if you're sending in crap to those key events, then the machine learning in GA4 is going to get all thrown off by it thinking that something is important when it's not super duper important, right? And so it's going to end up telling you, it's going to use its insights and tell you weird things, and the attribution is going to be all messy because of how you're sending the data in. So part of, at least right now in 2024, part of getting these systems to really be valuable is that really, really well structured data that you are setting up for the system, right? That's on the kind of marketing analytics. What are you sending into the system type of, you know, uh, uh, implementation. Clarity, on the other hand, you're sending everything in. And then Clarity is kind of making decisions based off of its own machine learning that has been set up of look for these types of things. Now, when it outputs observations, sometimes those observations get confused because, for instance, a cookie banner is on the website and a cookie banner gets the most amount of clicks, right? And so the cookie banner then in the insights is the number one thing that is shows up because people, it's basically, oh wow, a lot of people have clicked this, right? It must be important, right? So all of these things take some human intervention to be able to really truly get the value out of. You can't just regurgitate what's there. Now, we're still at a very young part of AI integrated into these systems. And I think that will evolve to eventually become better and better and better at what it's trying to do. But right now, that data collection, that data structure is really important to the overall quality of what the AI can do.
Now, the other aspect, which is, I think, depends a lot on how we evolve, because we both in this conversation are people from agencies. So we talked about individuals, but there are so many agencies or agency owners who call themselves specialist in AI, CRO, specialist in analytics, performance marketer, specialist.
Mhm.
How these agencies are going to survive when we have so much being done with AI stack, and when the business owner himself will be empowered enough to take the CRO or analytics up to a certain level where they don't need an external agency to do that for them.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting change. I think the agency makeup will look much different in the future in terms of the people involved. I think that there's probably going to be more teams of specialists versus, a kind of a lot of types of people. It's going to be, somebody who is an AI analytics puzzle crafter, right? It's a prompter, right? It's There's going to be different roles, and I think agencies will still exist because those are people who are concentrated in growth, right? Versus businesses who are concentrated on their business, right? So and that fundamentally has been the same for years and years and years and years, right? Why do agencies exist right now? Well, they're the people who are learning how to grow regardless of the business, right? Their concentration, their learnings, their teachings, they're all based off of scaling, right? And not necessarily a specific business. It's just the idea of scaling. So their goal is to learn the most current technology, the future technologies, right? And those specialists will still exist, and so agencies will still exist, right? Businesses will also have access to these tools, but not as much focus on specifically growth types of learnings, right? And so they will be still relying on specialists to kind of help them grow. But that team of specialists, I think that agency will look differently from a kind of model perspective than what it does today in 2024.
Yeah, so I think the way agencies are gonna evolve, and way they have to, so they have to bucket their people into two categories. One is kind of a generalist who can do multiple things with the help of AI. That's the
Mm-hmm.
simplest implementation for an early stage business or early stage startup that is just looking for basic implementation to run their business on more of an autopilot mode, so somebody can implement and maintain that over a long period. And that's kind of a slight arrangement, like not a huge involvement, but one person handling maybe 10 different businesses and implementations like that. That would be one role, which is more of a generalist who is able to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be highly skilled people
Mm-hmm.
who can look at the top of what AI has recommended or provided and fix problems there. So those will be maybe specialized agency which will be able to grow better, and
Yeah.
then there will be a generalist pool which is already there in a different way,
Yeah.
which is doing the random stuff collected at one place. So one person is able to execute, let's say, 10 different things, and all with the help of AI without knowing what is going inside the black box. They are just able to click some buttons and
Yeah.
run things in a kind of an operator mode, I would say. So
Yep.
I think this is how I see agencies going forward in the future. Maybe you have a different opinion, and that's all right. I mean,
No,
perfectly acceptable.
I agree with you. I think, there's always going, at least for a very long time, there will be human intervention that lives on top of AI, right? And I think, for the sake of humans in general, we would hope that that goes on for a very, very long time, right?
Yeah,
But in terms, so there will be positions on making sure that what AI is creating is the right decision, because you start relying 100% on it, then you're going to potentially get yourself in a position where
yep,
it causes issues. It makes the wrong decision. And a lot of
true.
these platforms today, like there's a company called Twick, for instance, and Twick.io is a CRO tool that leverages AI to run, constant
Mm.
tests, right? Like what navigation the user sees, and that changes for every single person who comes onto the site. And it does that by bucketing AI, that complete program, versus not having that program, right? And so that human who's living on top of that is saying, how is AI affecting versus how is it not? Okay, I want to run this. I don't want to run this. Okay, let's do that, right? And so that will still be needed, right? Because you just, throw that on 100%. It's so black boxy, right? And so, yeah, I agree with you that human is going to live on top. And then you would have, you would have generalists underneath who are more about putting those steps into place so that they start moving in a direction that that specialist can then look on top of. It's the same thing, that but except you're incorporating essentially an AI employee as well into the mix of what you're kind of creating as your business.
True. So the other important aspect that I want you to help my audience understand is, let's say there are certain tools or certain skill sets that they have to pick up in order to be ready for, let's say, 2025 and beyond, or be from the future. uh, what are those tools or resources that you feel going to be important? If you
Yeah.
have a ready list, and if you can recommend any tools for the
Yeah.
audience, that would be really helpful.
So in terms of like, having a stack of AI plus analytics or CRO tool, right? So like there's a few different tools I would recommend. I definitely recommend getting a pro version of one of the general ones, right? So having a pro version of Claude or having a pro version of ChatGPT. One amazing thing that just came out yesterday is that Claude now allows you to actually take control of your mouse and perform computer activities for you, right? This changes so much. I've not tried it yet, but it seems like this is going to revolutionize workflow as well. We were joking online, maybe you can do my time tracking for me. That would be amazing, right? But yeah, so like one of these general tools who are very good at creating concept, creating ideas, right? However, those are black box, very much so, right? They do not really give you a sense of the workflow. You upload a CSV to them and say, do this math. They're going to do the math, but you're not sure what actually happened in that process, right? So you also want some type of tool that whether it's a behavior analytics tool, whatever kind of system that you're working with, a BI tool, right? Depending on your type of job, you want a tool that gives you what the workflow, what the machine learning is doing, in the workflow. So there's systems like example of this is Clarity, where you ask Copilot to you chat with Copilot, say what's going on with my data. You can see the filters that it's applying to it, right? You can see that it's saving you time by analyzing this for you, but you can also validate what it's doing. And that I think is really important in terms of QA for a data analyst, especially right now, because there's hallucinations that happen. There's, other issues that AI presents when you are asking it to, be a part of your workflow. So finding one thing that shows you the workflow. And so if you are a CRO, having a behavior analytics tool that helps you kind of do that and gives you ideas, right? Based off of the data that it sees. If you're in marketing analytics, having a marketing analytics tools that can help you identify anomalies, it can help you identify the data in different ways that you might not, that is more of a flag for you, right? Something that you can leverage from a predictive audience perspective, right? And see how those predictive audiences match up against your regular audiences that you're targeting. Again, you're not relying on them, you are testing them, right? To understand the impact of a predictive audience versus a curated audience that you are targeting, right? So a marketing analytics tool such as GA4, Adobe Analytics, there's different value to all of these. A behavior analytics tool like Clarity or Hotjar, and then one of the general specialist one. And then it's also good to have something that can read on top of a database, right? So there's an example of this is like data chat. There's a system called data chat, and data chat can live on top of your database, and you can basically ask it questions, and those questions are then you can see the workflow of how it processes. What is the churn of my customer over the last 30 days? You can see what it's doing, but this just saves you time, right? And as long as you know what's good, what's not good, what you can trust, what you can't trust, these things can be very, very valuable to have on top of your current stack.
That's awesome, Josh. And I think we had a fantastic episode. Hope things come from future and help us survive. And
Me
there
too.
may be an AI tool that can print dollars so that we don't have to work at all. And we can
Yeah. And
see AI doing the job.
we'll meet in a year and we'll see how long my beard has grown. And that will give you the indication on how things are going in society.
Great. So, thank you so much for joining. Any parting remarks you want to add before we close the episode?
Have fun out there. We can still laugh.
Yeah,
This is serious stuff, but there's always opportunity to, have some fun with what's happening out there.
yeah, learn something new that AI can't do.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Yeah,
AI is not very funny. And so
yeah,
if you have that for you, then you're staying ahead of the curve.
true. Thank you so much, Josh. It was really fun talking to you, and we would love to host you again in future if possible. And
Yeah.
thank you so much, guys, for listening to us so far. Make sure you subscribe to the 10x Marketer podcast wherever you're listening from, either Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the YouTube channel. Thank you so much, and have a great day ahead. Take care. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.